Hey, how is everyone? Happy Friday on today, everyone. Happy Friday. And I want to give you some information. Wake up, America. Governor Newsom says same-sex marriage could be at risk next by Supreme Court. Now, Governor Newsom is the governor of California, and you know, uh, to terminate a pregnancy, I'm going to use that word, to terminate a pregnancy is legal in the state of California. Now, there Texas passed a bill, and Mississippi came out and they asked the Supreme Court to repeal Roe. And so you have some state getting on board, and you've always had this controversy about women rights and their bodies. And people, I would say, that are against it, that are anti, you know, anti, they feel that a woman should not do that, you know, and I don't want to say all the words that I might get, in trouble with YouTube, but you know where I'm going with that. And then you have the pro-choice people that believe that it's a woman's right, it's her body. She has the right to make her own decisions. She shouldn't be treated as less than human, but a full adult. And if they start to these, overturn the rights in those states, guess what happens? I came across an article where a woman traveled to California. She lives in Texas. She already has 3 children, and she traveled to California. Planned Parenthood helped her get there. So here in the state of California, it is still legal. But what about the other states where it's not legal, or they're trying to pass laws where it will no longer be legal to do so? You're going to have a lot of people on the black market, and there's going to be unsafe, you know, where I'm going, unsafe. And then there's going to be people traveling, especially to California, to make sure that they can do what they need to do safe. Because you know that if it happens on the black market, as I'm going to say it that way, it's not safe. And so Governor Newsom on Wednesday said he was outraged that the Supreme Court appeared poised to overturn the right to abortion and predicted this decision could lead to future efforts to strike down gay marriage. So he's saying that if they're doing it for Roe versus Wade, and if it gets passed, then guess what? It's going to strike down. They're going to go back and try to, take back, the gay marriage. They're also going to start a whole bunch of other things to take away rights. And you already see things happening. You already. And so Governor Newsom says, wake up, people. This is exactly what he's saying. Wake up, people. And he's saying that he spoke. Now, he was at this event in Los Angeles with members of Planned Parenthood and called for people to wake up in the wake of what he called a remarkable moment in American history. Okay. And at a time when countries around the world are expanding liberties, they are expanding rights, because they're in Italy. They have now said that a surname of the man, of the father, cannot just automatically go on a birth certificate. It has to be a mutual agreement between the mother of the newborn and the child's father. But it's not automatic anymore where the surname of the father gets on the birth certificate. This is happening in Italy. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of liberties, expanding rights. And right here he goes on. Here we are in the United States of America about to roll back rights, he said. Newsom argued that a weakened right to privacy would affect other protections, saying, don't think for a second, this is where they stop. You know what? The buck don't stop right there, people. Wake up, people. The buck does not stop there. Now, I'm not getting ready to say what I'm for and what I'm against. But guess what? What I am going to say is that we have got to be woke. We cannot be asleep. And if you have been asleep and unalert, then you better wake up, become alert, and be watchful as God has called us to. He told the disciples that, and we have got to stay woke. Or if you've been sleeping, wake up. And a lot of you know what I mean when I say, if you've been sleeping, wake up. Because I'm going to tell you something. The young woman that traveled to California, you know what she said? She said that it didn't make a difference. She didn't care about it when it was going on with them overturning, the Roe versus Wade. She didn't care. Now she is in a situation, she was in that situation where it affected her. And you know what? I'm going to add a little more. It doesn't, people do not get involved in things. They don't read up on things and be a participant in things. A lot of times people don't. Now, there's a lot of people do, but there's a lot of people like that young woman that said, I didn't care. I wasn't involved in it because it didn't affect me. But guess what? It affects her, and it affects every woman in this country for Roe versus Wade. Yes, it does. And if you're able to bear children, it definitely affects you. And she said that she didn't care about it at the time, but then she had to use this, she had to make a decision. And when she made that decision, she realized they turned her away at the clinic in Texas. Turned her away, didn't want to deal with her. She said they just counseled her out, basically. Counseled her out. So guess what she did? She reached out to Planned Parenthood, and they helped her. And she got to California. They treated her kind. They did everything for her. And I'm just saying, she said she had 3 children already. She got pregnant by a friend that had been friend for years, and she should have left it at that, but she made some choices, and there knew he wasn't going to be a good father. I'm just saying what the article said. And I'll put the article, in the I'll look for the article again and then put it in the in there. But I'm gonna try to pull up the article while I'm, on here. But I'm just saying that a lot of times people, they don't get involved until it affects them, and then all of a sudden they are stuck trying to figure out what to do. And this goes for, and I'm just saying, even though this is not about, some other people, but I'm just saying that's what happens when, even in the judicial system, and people going to trial, and people lying on folks, all this stuff, and people that have nothing to do with me until it happens to your family or until it happens to you individual. So he's saying, don't think for a second that this is where it stops, because I believe that it don't stop here. I believe that the buck does not stop here. And I'm just saying, and so he says, you think for a second SS marriage is safe in the United States of America? Newsom said, give me a break. He's talking about and you know what? And like I said, I'm not gonna get on here about what I believe and what I don't. I'm just giving you the information, and I'm saying, people, we gotta wake up. Now, I agree with Newsom when he says, wake up, people, because if they're gonna start taking away from rights, taking rights away that were passed, gave us rights that didn't have rights, and they're gonna start taking them away, what else will they do next? And it says President Joe Biden and other Democrats, along with some legal scholars, have also argued that SS marriage could be threatened by a weakened right to privacy if the court overturns Roe versus Wade. Okay? And they have cited language in the leaked Supreme Court document authored by Justice Samuel Alito on whether rights are deeply rooted in the United States history, and say that this could lead to other breaks from precedent. Okay? Precedent. Alito, for his part, also writes that nothing in this opinion should be understood to cast doubt on precedents that do not concern abortion, abortion, termination of pregnancy. I didn't want to say that word, but it's right there in the article. The Supreme Court's Public Affairs Office has said that the draft opinion does not represent a decision by the court or the final position on the case. Newsom referred to comments by Republican Senator Mike Braun of Indiana that appeared to suggest he believed interracial marriage should be left up to the states. Braun, however, later said he had misunderstood the question he was asked. Governor goes on, Newsom, and says, pay attention, America. They're coming after you next. Watch this space. If privacy is not constitutionally protected, this opens up a panoply of issues. Newsome went on to talk about plans with Democrat state lawmakers to add an amendment to the California Constitution that would make termination of pregnancy, I'm going to say that word, a protected right. A protected right. He says, we will not be defeated. We will affirm the currently constitutionally protected rights of women, girls, their reproductive rights and freedoms in America. Now, let me tell you something, people. My brothers and sisters, friends and family, subscribers, visitors, guests, let me say this. Because I've been talking about this for years. I was young talking about this. I was 18 to 19 talking about, pro-choice, and things like that. I talked about that, and even with a family member, we got into. I was 19. They were older than me, okay, and we got into a discussion when I was in the military, and I had called home just to see how my family was doing, and they wanted to call me a hypocrite because at 19, I'm young, and I'm talking about pro-choice for a reason. And I've seen a lot of people go into the clinic over where my dental office was and where I used to work in this office after I got out of the service, and I saw it. I saw a lot of them going up in there. And although I wouldn't want that for me, but I'll say it like this. I recall where if a woman chooses after she's been, the R word, violated, and she chooses to go ahead with the pregnancy, do you not know, and I'm saying this, that the R person, you know who he is, what I'm trying to say, the person that violated this woman, or, violate the woman, has paternal rights. And I was young talking about that I would not want to wake up every day knowing that a person that violated a woman has a right to see that child, knowing that they took something by force. And that's where I was at 19. And I think it's between God and that woman, they got to make it right for whatever. See, we can't tell nobody else's story. And a lot of times people want to tell somebody else's story, but we can't tell nobody else's story, and we can't tell anybody else's opinion. You can have your opinion, but you can't make somebody go along with your opinion on what you believe. And if a woman is violated, because men we know cannot get pregnant, but women can. So if a woman is violated and it's not consensual, what happens then if she winds up impregnated? She can't get, she can't do it. Can't go through that termination. And maybe there's health issues. Maybe she can't deal with being impregnated by a perpetrator that took it by force, and now she is going to have to live with this. See, I want to have empathy for other people. So I think that with all my faith in Christ, at 19, I had that discussion. I had that discussion, and and they were mad at me, and they told me I was a hypocrite and all type of stuff. They never thought about the other part of what a woman can go through. And will that baby be safe? Will that baby have a good upbringing if it leads the woman to some type of mental challenges and illnesses because of and trauma? Because it leads to trauma. So I question this decision because we got to look at the big picture of humanity. And I always say that about what's best for humanity. And shouldn't we leave? Shouldn't we leave some things up to God? Shouldn't we leave it up to God for God to hold people accountable and condemn them? Because there's no condemnation in Christ Jesus. But there are so many people that want to condemn and they want to put people down and they want to try to tell their story and they want to talk about them and judge them for a decision that they make. And I'm wondering, should we be at a place where we need to give it to God and we need to leave it there and let God deal with the people? And if the woman does something that we believe or who believe or they believe is against God, shouldn't God hold them accountable and shouldn't they make it right with God? Because see, I can't make somebody else's situation right with God. I can only make my situation right with God. And so I am concerned about people out here trying to play God, but they're not looking at the big picture. And I know some people may not agree with me and they'll come over here and they may say this and they may say that. And all I'm saying is, like I said, I'm not going to get into, yeah, I believe, I'm not going to do that. But what I am saying is, I think that when it comes to what Governor Newsom is saying, wake up people. Because if you think the buck stops right there, I believe you are sadly mistaken. Because if you notice, they are steady doing things to revoke liberties. Whereas other countries and are passing liberties, they are revoking them. Now, listen, I found this, I found the story. I found the story, and let me just pull this story up because I did find the story. I thought I wouldn't be able to, but I found it. It says a Texas woman needed a termination of pregnancy. I said I was going to try to say that, but in the article it says, the A word. Here's how far California went to help her. Um, this article it's coming from the L.A. Times. Okay. The first sign of Stephanie's pregnancy was nausea, as it so often is, that particular debilitating queasiness that knocked her off her feet, sometimes all day, days at a time. It kept Stephanie, who asked me not to use her real name for all the obvious reasons, from working. She runs her own business in Austin, Texas, braiding hair, a skill she learned as a teenager. Men, women, children, she told me with a Lone Star twang. Yes, ma'am. She does them all and loves it. Loves making her customers feel beautiful. When Stephanie took a pregnancy test and it came back positive, she was shocked at first, then dismayed. Then things got worse. Though she hadn't thought much about it, Texas has just passed its law banning termination of pregnancy after a heartbeat is found. Now, California, the golden state of both sunshine and liberty, has of course doubled down on access to reproductive health, also something Stephanie wasn't yet thinking about. Now, I want to stop right there for a moment because I, participated. It was about, let me see, 2018, I believe it was, or 2017, or March, and uh, the woman actually was complaining then about reproductive health, having health care for women, about how they were trying to take away the rights of women, trying to decide on a woman's reproductive health and things like that. And it was very informative to this march I participated in. And it was amazing, the turnout. And it was not just women there, but there were children and there were also men at this particular march. Okay. So, and it was about the same stuff this has been cooking for a while, you all. So this is not something that just all of a sudden. This Roe versus Wade, it's been cooking. It's been cooking, baking, and boiling for a while, okay? So Stephanie has been dating a man who had been a friend for a few years. They met at a restaurant during a Sunday lunch. And in retrospect, Stephanie wishes she kept him in the friend zone. As soon as she knew she was pregnant, she also knew he wasn't someone she wanted to be in a long-term relationship with. He was never going to be the kind of partner she could count on, and she didn't need more of that. And some people, I'm gonna stop right there, and some people will say, well, she didn't want him because he wasn't, that type of man for her children. And we hear that a lot. And we know that some women will try to pick and choose who the father is after they've already conceived. And they will be 2 and 3 and two, three, four, maybe five, or more choices of someone that they actually, had intimate relations with, and they really know who the father is, but they don't want that father. They want the one that's best for their child. That happens a lot too. But in this case, she says she was dealing just with one person, and she knew that he would not be, the kind of partner she could count on, and she did not need more of that. Uh, she didn't want to be, she didn't want to be in no long-term relationship with this person. Uh, you know, so dealing with him, she said that would have brought a lot of negative problems in her life. And I wonder, she said he was just a friend. Did she see those negative things? She's obviously saw them, but I don't know. Some things happen. Okay, people, I don't know. They just move forward, right, with that. But anyway, um, she already has 3 children, as I was stating earlier in the video. She's a single mom with all the hard work that comes with it. But she says, my kids are my main priority, she says. Now, I'm wondering where the father is. None of our business, but hey, it is always a question that can come up. Where is the father of her children or fathers? We don't know if she has the same father, children have the same father or different, but where is the father or fathers in this woman's children's life? Okay. We don't know that because she doesn't name a man in the children's life. She just talks about her being a single mom. So the youngest is a dancing machine who will start kindergarten soon. A little girl with a big personality. Her 6-year-old is the comedian, a clown, she says, with a helpful side. And her teenage daughter dreams of being a nurse who works with babies. The young girl thinks being a RN will give her a life of luxury, Stephanie says. That may not work out quite how the team thinks, but Stephanie is proud of her drive. She's a go-getter, very mature, she says. So I do wish the young teenager, success. I wish her all the best as far as wanting to be a nurse and getting into the helping field to take care of people, and working in the NICU. She wants to work with babies, so she wants to be a neonatal nurse. And I wish her the best. Wish her success, financial success, and everything. Success at her job, helping people, being kind and compassionate when she's dealing with the babies. I wish her all of the success and that her school, she'll be able to go to college or nursing school, whatever it takes for her. I do wish her the best. Okay. Now, Stephanie, 33, prayed about the pregnancy. She ran through her savings being off work. And we all know about that, how you have savings, and that pandemic knocked out a lot of people's savings and left some people broke or a lot of people broke. So we know how that can be, right? And and if you don't pay into the state disability, depending on what state you live in, then you probably won't have any type of disability. You do have to have savings. Now, if you pay into state disability in the state that you reside in, it's a big possibility that you will qualify for state disability, but you have to pay into it in order to really get it. Okay. And so I think that was one of the things that they were trying to change. And if I'm not, I can't remember who was all involved with it, but I know that what is her name? Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump's daughter, was trying to do something, passing some bills or laws at some point. But I know that's been a question too about women not being able to have, I guess, support when they do become pregnant and they have to take time off from work. So that's a whole different subject that I, got into a long time ago, but I don't remember all the details. So I don't want to say some things that I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. So she thought about the bills a baby would bring, what it would mean for her kids and for her own future. Then she decided to have a termination of life. I'm going to say that. But where I am at in my life, I am on a journey where I am still trying to find myself, trying to be the best mother I can be, she said. And I feel like it's hard enough already, and I don't want to bring another child into this world. Now, this, of course, none of our business and requires no justification, no backstory to make us understand a choice that is hers alone. But Stephanie shared her story with me both to help explain what it really means for California to be a sanctuary state for termination of life, how urgent it is that this state keep the promises its politicians uh, are making, and to let others in need of a termination of life know that there is help in these dark and frightening days. Now, what Planned Parenthood Los Angeles did to help Stephanie, the lengths it went to surprised her, she said. It made her proud to be in a state that isn't backing down from this ugly fight. And it made her realize that we are far beyond putting on pink hats and protesting at a state house where the governor and legislators already have doubled down on making California a sanctuary for reproductive care. And yep, a lot of the women out there, it's a reminder, they had on pink hats out here in where they were protesting at. Okay, so this is no longer just a culture war between those with political and ideological differences. If it ever was, this is a crisis of identity that will determine the future of this country for decades to come. A dividing line between inclusive democracy and a white Christian nationalism that is seeking successfully now to domino our rights one by one in a vicious fight to keep power for a few at the expense of equality and equity for most. It is racist, sexist, hate-filled, and un-American. Go on to say, I asked Erwin Chemerinsky, one of the nation's preeminent constitutional scholars and a professor at UC Berkeley, where we are headed if the leaked Roe decision becomes law. His assessment was bleak. Justice Alito's opinion, assuming it becomes the final decision, will put many rights in danger, he said. The right of custody of one's children, the right to keep the family together, the right of parents to control the upbringing of their children, the right to purchase and use contraceptives, the right of consenting adults to engage in SS sexual activity, the right of competent adults to refuse medical treatment. All those will be vulnerable, he warned. And see, this is why Governor Newsom said, wake up, people. Because if you think it stops here, it does not. So if you think the buck stops here, no, the buck doesn't stop here. It continues to go on. And that's what they're talking about. So can I read those things again? The right to custody of one's children, the right to keep the family together, the right of parents to control the upbringing of their children, the right to purchase and use contraceptives, the right of consenting adults to engage in SS sexual activity, the right of competent adults to refuse medical treatment. All those will be vulnerable, he warned. And it might even be more out there. But he says he predicted if Roe is overruled, states will adopt laws prohibiting contraceptives that act after conception, like the IUD, the morning after pill, some birth control pills. They will outlaw, they will outlaw IVF where embryos are not implanted. They will prohibit women from leaving a state for a termination of life and more. And you know, it's almost like if you go to another state, they're going to charge you. If you go to another state, they can charge you. That's what they're going to try to do, to pass laws to prohibit women from traveling. Man, this reminds me of, whoo, as if you, I'm not even getting into that. It's almost like you need a panel to discuss these things. This is deep, you all, and you know that that's coming. If they do that, guess what? The health plans don't want to pay for certain birth controls, contraceptives. You know that, right? They don't want to pay for certain ones anyway. And so and there are some companies out here like Hobby Lobby. They're not open on Sundays. And they didn't want to pay for it. If you do your research on Hobby Lobby, they did not want to pay for contraceptives. And all I'm saying is that if they do that and overrule, and Roe is overturned, let me tell you what's going to happen if they overturn it. All this stuff is mentioned. It can happen if they start passing these laws and prohibiting women from traveling. And see, this Stephanie, she's an alias, right? She traveled, right? She traveled. So let's hope that she doesn't get involved in that mistake again. And if she does, it's something that she wants. The baby she wants. It will be that she wants this baby. And I don't mean it in a derogatory manner when I say it's something that she wants, but the baby. Because at the end of the day, they're going to try to stop this. And see, that's why I'm saying that we can't be on the slow bus, because whether we agree with being pro-choice or not being pro-choice, no matter what your views are and what you agree with and don't agree with, guess what? It is going to affect you, because all the other stuff and anything that they can try to take away, the liberties, the civil liberties and the rights, if they can get this big thing overruled, because Roe versus Wade was huge. And if they can get that overturned, guess what? They're going to come for you. And they're going to start trying to overturn a whole bunch of other stuff. And so Stephanie now, she says she knows exactly what that oppression feels like. After the positive test, she went to a Texas clinic. She was only about 6 weeks pregnant, but they found a heartbeat. Woo! And that was that. See, and in Texas, heartbeat. That's all it takes is to hear a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And so suddenly the Texas law was about her. See, and this is where I was telling you, she did say this. And that's why I said, I'm glad I found this article because I can read to you what the article actually says and kind of, talk about it, expound on it a little, but read to what she's saying. It was about her and her future narrowed down to panic and fear. Can you imagine panic and fear? Because see, first of all, it's no joke bringing a child in this world. It's no joke having a pregnancy and getting care, prenatal care and going to your appointment. It's no joke. And then to bring a baby in this world, and you already been through it or you haven't been through it yet. And matter of fact, that can be even more challenging if you don't want to be pregnant, if you don't want to go through the pregnancy. And imagine not being able to get the care you need, all of the healthcare disparities when it comes to Black women. There's a lot of healthcare disparities when it comes to, getting prenatal care and how they're treated, doing, their care and even in the delivery room, and even, if they have to have a C-section. There's a lot of healthcare disparities and how Black women are treated. And I don't want to make this a race thing, but you got to look up your stats. Matter of fact, there's a case going on now that this family, Mr. Johnson's been fighting since 2016, when his wife died from internal bleeding. And this is at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. So all I'm saying is there's a lot to this, and we have to be woke and we have to be involved. And we can't just say, well, that don't apply to me. We can't say that because we never know what's going to apply to us. It may not be us right now, but it can be us later on, or it can be a family member later on. And can you imagine a female family member being assaulted and forcefully, the R word and winding up in a situation where they're impregnated and they got to deal with that? I'm just saying. Because see, it's not up to me who anybody loves. When Governor Newsom was talking about, the SS marriage, it's not up to me who people love. I'm totally 100% heterosexual. I believe in the biblical concept and the views on marriage between a man and woman. I believe in all of that. But I'm not, hey, you love who you love. That is your choice. God's going to deal with all of us. We all have to be accountable for who we are and how we lived our life. Period. Point blank. God's going to hold us accountable. So it's not for me to condemn anybody that their views are different from mine or their lifestyle is different from mine. No, because I don't want to be condemned. So, and not just because I don't want to be condemned, but I have to look at the word of God. I have to look at compassion because God loves everyone. He hates the sin, but he loves the sinner. Put it like that. He hates the sin, but he loves the sinner. So at the end of the day, when people say it don't affect me, but if you have a family member that's living that life, it can affect you. Because see, love is love. When it comes down, even if you don't even if you don't condone that lifestyle, but if that's your family member, you love them. And you don't want to see nothing happen to them to hurt them. And most of us want our family members to be happy, to be healthy, to be able to live their life. And so when we talk about wake up people, yes, we got to stay woke. And if we're not woke, we need to wake up. Because if you think that it stopped right here, it doesn't. So anyway, she goes on, forgive me, I have to get some things out. But she goes on and she says, before I went through this situation, I really didn't care. Bingo, right there. a lot of people don't care until it happens to them. And let's just tell the truth. Excuse me. She said she really didn't care of the Texas law. But then when it affected me, this is her words in this article. This is the article. It was like, oh, S. Now you can put, the other thing that most people say, or you can put snap in that. Oh, snap. You know what I'm saying? But all I'm saying is that people do that. There's a lot of people that just don't pay attention, or they say, oh yeah, that doesn't bother me. That don't have nothing to do with me. I'm not voting. I'm not getting involved. I'm not going to march. I'm not going to help them. I'm not going to give a donation. I'm not going to wear a pink hat or a pink ribbon. I'm not going to do none of that until it happens to them. This thing with the RICO charges, a lot of men said, and you've got women out here wanting people to be in prison for years, in decades, and and never get out and see the light of day and all this stuff. But if it happens to your family member, especially when the charges shouldn't be, then you're going to be like, oh, snap. But at that time, you really didn't care. Okay. So she said the clinic basically kicked her out. They kicked her out of the clinic in Texas. Yeah, because they don't want to lose their license. They don't want to be called out and say they over there counseling women that want, the termination of life. They don't want to get caught up in anything. So guess what? They kicked her out of the clinic. She was crying, and she went back inside to ask if they knew anyone who could help her. And the answer was no, a hard no, because they didn't want to get involved. The law is what it is, right? They heard a heartbeat and they said, no, buddy, we're not getting involved in that. We're done with you. Goodbye. The visit is over. It's documented in the chart that they told her that. You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to say. So the answer was a hard no, and luckily a friend persuaded her to call Planned Parenthood in Texas that day. And that clinic got her in touch with the Los Angeles office. She said she was thinking there was no way she could get to California, but her friend told her to make the call anyway, a last-ditch hope. So guess what? I already said, explained to you, she came out in the article and said that she had already used up all her savings. So she had no money to get to California. But guess what? Immediately, they were so helpful, Stephanie says. They were concerned. They made me feel good in that moment. And everybody down here just turns up their nose. Yeah, people just turn up their nose. Hey, that don't have nothing to do with me. Or guess what? I agree with, they agree with, the Roe versus Wade being overturned, and they agree with that law, that the Roe versus Wade could be overturned, excuse me, and because it hasn't yet. But also they agree with the bill that was passed in Texas. A lot of people might agree with that bill. So guess what? She's saying people just trying to say no. And that's probably what's happening. I would like to hear from some Texans. How do you as Texans feel about that? Are you pro? Are you anti, uh, you know, uh, pro-choice? Anti, against it? How do you feel about it? And do you think that it's going to totally have a big impact on your female children? And the other thing is, what if you don't believe in pro-choice, but your daughters do? Will you support them? Because again, it is their personal business. That's a privacy thing. And it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. So anyway, the coordinator who handled her call got to work. Stephanie said Planned Parenthood booked her flights between Texas and LA, 1,242 miles each way, and paid for them. They paid for her trip, her airfare, round trip ticket, and they arranged transportation and a hotel. And they paid for those too. They even gave her money to pay for incidentals such as food. But it was the way they made her feel that she remembers most. And that's true. People don't care about your degrees and how much money you have. They care about how you made them feel. And if you make them feel a certain way, people are going to always remember that. They don't care about no degrees. They don't care about how much money you have and how much property you have and what house you live in and what car. They care about how you treat them. And that's really a true statement. For most people, it's a profound statement. Now, I've talked to most people. They care about how you make, how, they care about how you treat them, how you made them feel, and not anything else. So she says that, uh, like it wasn't an embarrassment or a shame, she said. So they didn't make her feel ashamed, and she didn't, you know, feel embarrassed by the decision that she made. And she said she was at the lowest point in her life and she found love from strangers, she said. See, no one knows what a woman goes through with that whole situation, especially when it's unwanted. Even if you've made that decision to, go forward without protection, without using some form of contraceptive, um, it still can be a difficult, situation that you're put in. It still can bring out a lot of emotional trauma or emotional, you know, issues. And so I think that we can't tell somebody else's story. We don't know. I mean, people experience things and everybody's story is not the same and everybody's experience is not the same. It may be some similarities, but it's not the same. And so I can't judge this woman, regardless, even if she didn't, use contraceptive and all that, I'm not going to judge her because I'm not going to try to tell this woman's story. I can only read what the article says. And they did change her name. And she says she flew in on a Monday and had the procedure on a Tuesday, then headed home to her kids the next day. No complications, no drama. She said, I didn't expect all this, she said, and that's why she's willing to talk about it. She thinks the Texas law is trash, but California welcomes those in need. But see, again, she didn't vote. She didn't get out there and vote. She didn't go protest. She didn't go march. She said, I didn't care about it. But see, this is a prime example of why we have to get involved with things. It's a prime example of why we need to be involved. A prime example. Because just because it may not be currently affecting you or affecting you in the past or affecting you now, doesn't mean it won't affect you, doesn't mean it won't affect some family members. And I'm just saying, or even some close friends, And so she says, I want people to know that in this life you cannot judge anyone, she said. I also want people to know there is help and support out there. Don't feel alone. Don't feel embarrassed. Do what's best for you. Now, some people, let me stop right there because some men may say, well, yeah, what about the man? Now, maybe she had a conversation with that man. I don't know, and said, look, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm going to do. Maybe she told him, maybe she didn't. I don't know. And that's another thing, too, that, when women decide to terminate, terminate a pregnancy, how many times men know and don't know? You know what I'm saying? And what happens if they go through with it and then give it up for adoption? You know that there's an article out there. There's a story of a guy that woman was lying to the man, telling him all type of stories about her pregnancy and how it was going, and then she wound up giving the baby up for adoption. And he fought back and he won. And some of you might remember that story. So there's a lot. I mean, this is a big, big thing, and I don't take it lightly. I don't take it lightly at all. You know, uh, not one bit. And I have a lot of female family members, when it comes, I'm talking about nieces, no sisters, but nieces and, hey, cousins, that are still able to, bear children. And I'm just saying, I want to reach out to them and ask them, what do they think? I want some input. Have a niece that's a counselor that runs her own counseling office and, so she's a social worker, has her degree in social work, a master's in social work. And I wanted to reach out to them and see, hey, I'm gonna reach out. And I think that's important to do that, see where they stand with it. How do they feel about it? And looking at the other side of it about, what if they were forcibly violated? What do you think about that? Does that change your mind about, do you think that it should be allowed in those situations or a matter of life and death, to save, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, she says a smart, resourceful adult, barely figured out how to get access to the reproductive care she needed, even though she's smart. But you know what? And one thing, you know, about that is that there are things people don't know, and you would think just looking at them and their behaviors and how they, you know, are able to be entrepreneurs. And there's a lot of things that some people don't even know, and you will think that they do. And then people go, well, how did you not know that? There's things, I mean, I remember one of my classes many years ago when I was at a junior college, and um, you know, and that was at that time I was working towards my associate degree. And I remember um, we talked about how some people don't even know how to call the electric company and ask for an extension and tell them they're having trouble paying their electric bill. So we can't judge people by just looking at them and saying, yeah, you got it all together. Because you don't know that when they get home, they fall apart. Now, you might be on your job showing everybody you got it all together. You may go to church and show everybody you got it all together. But after you get through church and work, you might fall apart at home. You may even fall apart before you get home. Maybe in the car, you sitting in your car before you turn it on and start it to leave work or church, and you crying in your car. Because we can't just look at people and say that they got it all together. We don't know what goes on in people's personal lives, but she says she thinks about a 14-year-old girl too scared to tell her mom she's knocked up, or a mom who just can't figure out where to go for help when that daughter does come to her. Yeah, what happens if it happens to your daughter? What are you going to do about it? How are you going to protect your daughter and your female children? How are you going to protect your female family members? How are you going to protect your wife? I read an article last week where this man brutally arred this woman in front of her 4-year-old daughter. It was two of them. And the guy, and they caught the 14-year-old. They said he was the one that did it, but that he had an accomplice. And I believe the accomplice was older. Yes, and she ran out the house screaming, blood all over her, no clothes on, is what the neighbor said. She had to go get a, R kit done while her husband was at work. Now, what happens? They broke in her house, home invasion, brutally, and stole stuff. What happens if something turns out to be that she is impregnated by this 14-year-old? I mean, so we gotta wake up, people. Um, we gotta know that the buck doesn't stop right here. And so it doesn't have, and she goes on and she says now, this is this part here. It doesn't have to be R or incest. We don't need the horror stories or worst case scenarios, even though we do have the worst case scenarios and horror stories. Thousands of women, girls, and transgender people find out they are pregnant every day with thousands of backstories that are none of our business. But the fact that they no longer have choices in states such as Texas and Oklahoma, or even nowhere to go for help, should be everyone's business. And Sue Dunlap, the head of Planned Parenthood of Los Angeles, told me they see about 100 people a month from out of the state for reproductive care. Across California, clinics are gearing up to help many more than that, possibly several hundred per week at the bigger facilities. The state legislature is working to increase access to reproductive care by allowing more types of medical professionals to handle terminations of life and by creating state funds that would help cover costs. Organizations like Planned Parenthood are collecting money and marshaling resources. Dunlap didn't want to call it an underground railroad for reproductive care, maybe for all the harsh history that term holds, but I'll call it that. Yeah, railroad, underground railroad, and all that other stuff. And trying to get it on the black market and a whole bunch of stuff, selling babies even maybe it's just a lot, and that's sad but it happens, okay? And that is true, it happens. We got to be real about it. Now that's how far backward the current moment is and how steeped in past racism it is, because a lack of access to abortions hits black and brown women the most and hurts those who are poor and marginalized with greater brutality. And we have read, if you haven't, but there are statistics out there that show that, and it doesn't take a lot of rocket science to know that it does hit the more poor and marginalized communities with greater brutality, and it happens a lot to the black and brown people the most. Now, if you do nothing else, I hope you will share Stephanie's story far and wide so that others in need of reproductive care know the help here is real. Even Stephanie still can't quite believe what California did for her and her family. Well, it was Planned Parenthood, Los Angeles, in California. Okay. She says, I didn't expect all of this. She said, none of us did, but here we are. And while fighting to help individuals such as Stephanie is critical, we have to be real about how much is at stake. California might prefer to focus on its own needs, but as a leader of civil rights, it is being thrust into a national role of protecting the vulnerable, whoever they may be. It pains me to end a reproductive rights column with a quote from someone without a uterus, but credit where credit is due. Pay attention, America, Governor Newsom said this week, speaking outside Planned Parenthood, Los Angeles. They're coming after you next. So I will put this article, in the description with the other article. And I know the video is 50 minutes, but I want you all to know it's about 50 minutes to know. Thank you for tuning in. You know, and stay woke, people. And you know what? The copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. And you know what? My opinion is not necessarily the opinion of others that come to my channel, but I welcome everybody on my channel. I truly appreciate your respectful comments. You know, whether you agree or don't agree with, what's going on, if you believe in it, and are you pro-choice or not pro-choice, that is strictly up to you. But all I'm saying is that the buck does not stop here. We have to stay woke because we have to look at the really, really big picture on what's really going on. And so God bless you all. I thank you again for tuning in. Don't forget to like the video. Please share this video and share Stephanie's story. Okay, share her story and subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber. And if you want to support the channel, you're more than welcome to do so. Again, God bless you all on today. And I hope that you have a beautiful rest of the day.